This is Keys to the Shop, episode 480, What Your Customers Love. Well, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Keys to the Shop, where we give you insights, inspiration, and the tools you need to grow as a coffee service professional. My name is Chris DeFirio, and I'm your host for the show. We've been doing this thing for about 7 years now. Keys to the Shop has well over 800, moving on to almost 900 published episodes. You can find mostly all those episodes, save for the shift breaks, at keystotheshop.com to really search the catalog for subjects and interviews and stories that will help you where you are in your journey of coffee shop leadership. Then subscribe to the show. And in your podcast player, just search the thing you're looking for: management, training, finances, whatever you're looking for. Keys to the Shop has probably covered it over the course of these last 7 years. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button on the podcast player of your choice. And also, we're doing a lot of YouTube content, or I'd say a lot for us. We're just getting in that field more. But I would invite you to go to the YouTube channel at Keys to the Shop and subscribe there as well. Make sure the notification is on as well for episodes as they come out. Now, I want to let you know that there's a couple of things happening. Keys to the Shop has been a consulting company as well as a podcast for quite a while. I've been able to work one-on-one with people opening coffee shops, as well as people who are already running shops that simply want the accountability and insights and clarity that comes from coaching as they grow their business and as they overcome challenges that emerge as they are successful. That's just kind of the way that goes. You know, you reach a certain threshold when you scale or you become profitable, or as you just go in the journey of operating a cafe, more challenges come up. And this is what Keys to the Shop consulting is all about: providing clarity, insights, and tools to help you run a thriving coffee shop and to help you have fun doing it with people who are being cared for well in your business. So email Chris at keystotheshop.com, CHRIS at keystotheshop.com. If you are looking to enter into some coaching, you want to have a conversation what that looks like, go ahead and email me so we can have a free discovery call and just talk about what's going on at your coffee shop. How can I help you? How can I help your team? There's a lot of things we can do together to help you grow your coffee bar and reach the best next level for your business. Again, for one-on-one coaching, Chris at keystotheshop.com. And don't forget, Keys to the Shop has the key holder coaching groups. In fact, in about 40 minutes or so from now, I have one of our groups. We are meeting together. We've got a couple of people on the hot seat where we're going to focus on their individual challenges and topics and move the needle for their business, for their culture, for their finances, whatever it is that comes to mind. This mastermind group of coffee shop owners, that is the Key Holder Coaching Group, has changed people's businesses for the better. There are so many great conversations that we've had, and I would invite you to reach out to me and say, hey, I'm interested in being a part of one of these groups. The good news is that it's not too far away. September is when we open up or we start another round of key holder coaching groups. So if you want to be considered, email Chris at keystotheshop.com. I'll give you an application, we'll have a conversation, and then go from there. So if you're looking for community and accountability and great in-depth conversations that help you run a great business, key holder coaching groups are actually one of the best things you could invest into. So again, email Chris at keystotheshop.com. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Ground Control. Ground Control is a company that has been pursuing better coffee, making coffee better through technology for many, many years now. First generation Cyclops brewer has been just changing the game of what we can expect from batch brew coffee and extraction technology. And it has multiple SCA Best New Product Awards, recently especially in Chicago, for their second generation machine. It has a lower MSRP. It is more compact. It is a beautiful machine. And not only does it make awesome batch brew coffee, but it also allows you to make batch espresso concentrate and cold brew for your bar. So kind of an all-in-one machine. Go ahead and visit them at groundcontrol.coffee. Have a conversation And just look at the stories on the website and see who is using this equipment. It really has been turning heads and elevating people's expectations and delighting palates the world over. So again, go and visit them at groundcontrol.coffee. Now, another great sponsor that we've been working with from virtually the very beginning is someone who's been here, seems like, from the very beginning in coffee. That is the Barista Series from Pacific. The Barista Series is the line of plant-based performance beverages that's designed for baristas and tested by awesome world-class baristas before the product reaches your counter. And that's why it is a performance beverage. It stands up to the heat from steaming. It produces awesome texture for latte art, and it also keeps the balance of the taste focused on the coffee. So all of that is a huge win for your customers and for your bottom line. Honestly, consistency is huge. We're going to talk about that later in this episode about what customers love. The Pacific Barista Series has it in spades. So go ahead and go to pacificfoodservice.com. Get samples, try it for yourself. If you're looking for the best plant-based beverages for your customers, then you should be trying the Barista Series from Pacific. Okay, everyone, today is the day we talk about what your customers love. I want to focus on what you should focus on. There are things you can avoid. There are a lot of things you can avoid. And I think we always focus sometimes as managers and leaders on the stuff that we don't want to see in the cafe. But here in this conversation, let's focus on what we do want to see. And of course, that means the opposite is something we don't want to see. But this morning, I put out one of we're calling them forest thoughts, I suppose, little live recordings when I'm like hiking in the forest here, talking about how I was thinking about coffee tasting and the assumption of the positive versus the assumption of the negative. I had gone to be a student slash observer of the Coffee Roasting 101 class in Minneapolis from Mill City Roasters. Great folks over there, great product, and they're super effective educators. And one of the mantras was that when you're tasting coffee, not when you're evaluating green coffee in the sense of looking for a defect, that's important, but when you're tasting coffee for preference, for nuance, what you're not doing is you're not trying to focus on if this coffee is bad. You're trying to find out how this coffee is good. And when you start from that premise, you're going to find a lot of good things. But you're also probably going to find things that detract from it as well, which is fine. That's part of the tasting experience. And it gives you a clue as to how you can further invest into allowing the good things that you found to shine. Now, if you don't have a target, what are you going to shoot at, right? And the target is not avoiding. You can't shoot at a target that's made up entirely of things you don't want. That doesn't make sense. You've got to have that goal in place for what you want to see as the standard, and then you go from there. And in coffee tasting, it's the same with service. In my talk on the Forest Thoughts live stream on Instagram, by the way, if you don't follow Keys to the Shop on Instagram, that's kind of a cool thing to do as well. You can also reach out to me there as well, DM me there. Anyway, the thought was this applies to people as well. We want to apply the positive assumption towards people. And then sometimes people will reveal to us that they may or may not have warranted that assumption. And that's their decision to make. And that happens sometimes too often, but we can't go into it thinking everyone's bad and then be surprised by the good. The opposite direction is what I think is more helpful, because you kind of get what you assume. And this idea that you want to start with, how is this coffee good? Or this coffee is good, and then work your way in from there. And how is this person good? What are their strengths? What are their values? And then how can I help accentuate those things and create an environment? It's the same thing with operations. What does the great service in your cafe look like? What does a good coffee shop experience look like for all the people experiencing it? And so when we focus this conversation on the things your customers love, hopefully what this is going to do is clarify for you and put a fine point on some things that you should hold as goals. And if you can eliminate atmospheric drag and resistance to achieving those goals, you're still operating with this idea that we're shooting for a good thing here. We're not just focusing on the bad stuff. We're focusing on how can we invest into the good stuff. And so let's begin by talking about the thing that you hear a lot And yet it doesn't seem to be the kind of thing we invest into as much as we ought. And that is consistency. Consistency is probably the most important thing that you can do in the cafe. And the reason why it's the most important thing is because it is the ultimate form of proof that they can trust you as their provider of coffee or experience. If there's inconsistency, eventually it erodes trust. And trust is the ultimate currency in business. It's where money comes from. Money is simply an outcome of people's trust. If you want to see your afternoon sales go up, if you want to see the amount of purchase go up from $7 to $8 to $9 to $10, $13, what you've got there is a trust problem, more or less. And the reason why it's a trust problem is because maybe somebody wants to, and there are many reasons why this comes down to trust as the number one thing we want to focus on in our pursuit of consistency. People have somewhat of a Rolodex, if you remember what that is, like a circular, I won't even describe it really. Basically, they have a list in the back of their head where they keep bad experiences and good experiences, and they create an average of those things, and they calculate the probability of whether that's going to happen again or not. And in a flash, this happens in a split second, they will decide to either go or not go, to jump or not jump in line at your cafe or your drive-through or whatever it is. And so what we can do to really give customers what they love is invest into being customers of our own businesses and experience the cafe the way that a customer experiences it. We can build cultures of feedback where we solicit the opinions of our customers. It doesn't matter if those customers know all of the ups and downs of entrepreneurship or what latte art is or whether you respect their beverage of choice or not. They represent a valuable perspective that gives you more information to go on that will then inspire your next action. How will you be able to invest into the business wisely without perspective? So you can gain that perspective yourself, you can observe, you can be a present leader, you can have a culture of observation, a culture of feedback that you cultivate, and get the information not just from the customers and your own eyes and ears and palate, but also from your staff. And then in this, let's say the wisdom from the multitude of counselors, more or less, you can then take that and say, now I can, with wisdom, move to the next step, which might be to invest into the development of a role such as a trainer position that helps achieve ongoing education and training for your staff so that you don't just onboard them really quickly and just let them flounder and then the consistency goes off the rails. You might recognize that there's a need for something like that, and it would justify the expense of adding a higher paid, potentially salaried position because you know that without that consistency, you're playing this dangerous game where eventually the customer may go down in the amount of things they purchase or the number of times they visit your cafe. So consistency is what customers love because, believe it or not, a coffee shop is not exactly the number one priority for them. And inconsistency creates a burden of, too much thinking, too much calculation of risk. Removing the risk by increasing consistency allows this to just kind of flow. And when people are unencumbered mentally and emotionally in the process of going to a coffee shop, guess what else is unencumbered? Their wallet. It feels a lot better. But if I have to start doing your job for you, if I have to start wondering, I wonder if that barista is working today that I like, or on the weekends, the espressos are not as good because they're so busy and everyone just downgrades the standard of the drink, but in the weekdays, they can dial it in. Well, then you're just going to get more of that same kind of inconsistency over, it's going to compound, right? So let's focus on consistency of quality, consistency of service, and all the other aspects of our business that we say, hey, here is a standard that we have set because it produces the most enjoyable experience that a customer can have. And it ticks all the boxes of the sensory world that they live in. Okay, so another thing customers love is cleanliness. Now, we just kind of hinted at this idea that there is a sensory world the customer lives in. And for a customer, it's different than a barista, right? They go into the cafe, and one of the things that it signals to them that it's a trustworthy place is that it is clean. Not only is it clean, it is organized, it is set right, it is cared for. And there is this entropy that happens with cafes where we set up, it looks great, it's Instagrammable, whatever it is. And eventually, as we prepare to open store 2 or 3 and we get busy, things start to corrode. We don't maintain the space. Corners, like that one corner, starts to get a little cobwebby, and spiders set up shop, and there's dust, and maybe there's a cup lid that's been there since the open day, the grand opening party, but it's been there for 6 months. And that's very concerning for a customer to see, because what it looks like is a lack of attention to detail that intuitively you think, well, maybe they've done this with my drink. But they don't take care of the bathrooms. They don't take care of the condiment bar, or the tables, the corners. They don't seem to mind that the glass is really disgusting, or, the patio space is unattended. Fill in the blanks of all these areas where it kind of gets away from you sometimes. And totally, I understand that sometimes you just can't bust the bus bin because you just got a busload of people unloaded on the sidewalk. But not every situation where there's sort of a gap of cleanliness and orderliness is just out of your hands. Innovation, again, we've talked about this on the show before, the idea that innovation is only something relegated to the realms of technology is why we can't seem to get ahead in the coffee shop. It's that we haven't innovated ways to create new systems to achieve consistent cleanliness in our coffee shops. It's very important. Even if you're one of those coffee shops that is mixed matched furniture, it's kind of casual, it's whatever your theme is. I don't care if you have shag carpet and finger paintings on the wall with mixed matched beanbag chairs, you can still be very clean about it. I don't think there's any concept out there that doesn't get better when people are taking care of it. And the way you take care of your space is a predictor of how you're going to take care of your staff and your customers. That's the way people view their surroundings. It's a signal. So customers love a clean coffee bar. What else do they love? A customer will really appreciate a cafe that has a staff focused outward. Attention, acknowledgement, a welcoming. This is hospitality 101. If we as a team are focused on what's happening in the world of the person we are serving and not so much at our own navels, the customer appreciates that because they feel seen. For a lot of cafes that maybe don't have this or have some room to grow in acknowledging people, as our friend Philip Paul Turner has said, past episodes, acknowledging, welcoming, including people, having that head up, confident outward focus. Also something we talked about on the Spiderwebs episode, talking about hospitality and extending yourself out beyond the bar. The cafe turns into sort of a self-service environment with the illusion of hospitality, with the trappings of hospitality. The queue up in line, you're only acknowledged when it's, convenient. You are left on your own in the queue. You're left on your own to get your drink, and nobody says farewell. No one recognizes when a drink spills. It's basically a free-for-all, and customers see it. They see it when it's present, and they see it when it's not present. And they will be attracted more to the concept that allows them to feel taken care of, acknowledged, included, and feeling welcome than the one that is more concerned with just getting through the shift and please don't make my job hard. And, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you standing there. Or you just fill in the blank. Again, there's lots of different things that can substitute for the positive. And we allow those things to happen because we haven't focused on so much what the customer loves and how it looks and what we're aiming at. You might be thinking, well, some of these things ring true for my coffee shop right now. And I would say it's most likely, yeah. There's probably some things that just based on the business of the day, they creep in. It's like weeds in a garden. Okay. So there's a cultivation aspect of the cafe that is a part of what leadership does. That is ultimately what I view leadership as, using your authority and power to cultivate an environment that focuses on the things that you've planted to help them come to fruition, and in the process, not to allow resources to be diverted to other invasive species or attitudes or systems and problems, that kind of stuff. But if you become an expert only on the problems and not so much the thing that you planted, then you're kind of cart before the horse, back to the way we started this conversation. So customers love, again, consistency, they love cleanliness, and they love attention to detail and attention to them. Because let's face it, this is a service position. This is not, how can the customer serve me? We are servants to people who want coffee. And in a grand sense, we are serving the industry through our service to people. And we need to figure out how to derive joy from even some of the most mundane things that happen in the cafe. And some of the time, I think it's helpful for us to unplug from all the comparisons we do. And we believe the answer is out there. But in our own cafes, there are plenty of ways that we can go deeper and become more effective in bringing forth the thing that the customer loves. And as we start to get that positive feedback from the customer, if you are a hospitality person, that positive feedback is what fuels you. Not necessarily your love for coffee, it's your love for people. And if you find that people are responding well to it, if you are focused on how are they responding to it, and you find that they're responding well, that'll get you up in the morning. If customers are simply a nuisance, a bother, they hold the money and therefore we serve them, then you shouldn't be in this business, period. And you should find a way to sell your business to somebody who does want to serve people through coffee, not people who want to serve coffee in spite of people. All right. Off my soapbox. All right. What else do customers love? This will be our last thing here. Customers love story. Customers love story because they have a story. You have a story as your business, and coffee has a story to tell. The narrative of your story and giving them a platform to tell their story and to do so with their groups of friends and family over coffee. This is what coffee shops foster. And when you gain trust through some of those things I just talked about, you allow people to feel a deeper sense of themselves in the cafe and a deeper appreciation of your coffee. Now that they trust you, they will listen more if you want to talk about coffee. If they opt into this conversation around processing or farmers and sustainability or equity, etc., now the conversation deepens, an already positive conversation happening between you and the customer. And that story can be told many ways. It could be actually told verbally. You can also tell that story of coffee through the way you present your menu. This is why customers appreciate variety, because it expands the horizons that they operate in the coffee shop. Yeah, consistency is great, and you never want to sacrifice consistency just for novelty, but novelty and specialty beverages and explorations is the other side of the coin. And having those signature drinks or rarer coffees or interesting flavors that aren't necessarily the daily drinkers and that kind of stuff, okay, that's part of it. And so customers, I guess you could say, love variety, but we can't pursue variety to such a degree that, again, it threatens the consistency of what people find security in. I love adventure, okay? Order from the adventurous menu, but some of the safety in that adventure is knowing that I can go back to the thing that I've always gone back to, and that you value it so much yourself that you're always going to make that amazing. If you want to re-listen to the episode with Ryan Castellas of Discourse Coffee in Milwaukee, that's a great example. They do some off-the-wall signature beverages, but they are super passionate also about cortados and drip coffee, Americanos or whatever. They all have to be beautiful and excellent things, consistent and prepared with the customer's benefit in mind every single time. And the customer sees this as hey, this world of coffee, it is something that is being given to me. This is a gift. For me as a customer, I feel so special. And the reverence I have for coffee increases as I receive the benefit of coffee made from me, made with intentionality. So that variety, yes, let's do it. Let's have borders that are expanded in your coffee shop. So customers, yeah, they love variety and they love consistency and cleanliness, attention to detail and attention to them, the preemptive, empathetic, others-focused service that we should be offering in our coffee shops. This is the future of coffee. If we can get these things right, then the experience customers have in a cafe will lock them in. Their loyalty will just be a bygone conclusion, and your business will benefit all the more. The more money you make, the more profit you make, the more you can pay your staff, the more you can pay yourself, and the more good you can do through this coffee shop. And so I hope that this was a helpful episode for you. Just a few things. Of course, there are many things we could talk about. Always go to the suggested episodes in the show notes for further conversations on related topics. And don't forget, Keyholder Coaching Group's a mastermind of coffee shop owners like yourself that are all gathering with intention for accountability, insights, and support. That's coming up, another round of Keyholder Coaching Groups in September. So if you're interested, chris@keystotheshop.com is where you can go for that. Thanks everybody so much. I really appreciate your support of Keys to the Shop. Subscribe, follow, and as always, I hope that this episode has truly given you keys to the shop.